Welcome, everybody, to the 12th edition of the NFC East podcast. Joining me today is Joey, the Cowboys fan. Today, we're going to be previewing every game in Week 10, predicting them, giving you the spreads, the money lines, and all that good stuff. And also, we did already have a game this week, and that was Raiders-Broncos, which occurred yesterday. Joey, before we get into all this, how you doing this week? Are you ready for this week of football?
I am ready for this week of football. I think we just talk about devastating news yesterday. Marshawn Kneeland.
I agree.
Pretty sad what happened with him. He was a very promising player, and it just shows you that you don't really know what's going on with these guys. You would think he has everything, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough.
In my videos about the quarterbacks that I did this offseason, I really tried to tap into what was going on in their life, because when I did Dak Prescott's, one thing that stuck out to me about making that video was just how much I didn't know about Dak and his life. Like, I knew about, his mother and stuff like that, but just his whole story to the NFL and how much he'd gone through, it's crazy. And, the organization that, he runs for men's mental health situations and anyone's mental health, I'm pretty sure it's for. I just know he's outspoken about it for men. It's a very important thing. So to see that happen on Dak's team too, definitely, it hits a little harder. And so rest in peace, Marshawn Kneeland. So
Solomon Thomas is another guy who's outspoken on mental health, and he's in the same D line room as Marshawn Kneeland.
Yeah,
So
it's got to be really hard for those guys. So even though these guys are making millions of dollars, like, you don't know what's going on in their life, what they might be dealing with. So that's an important thing for men to keep in mind. We got to stick together, reach out, talk to someone. It's never a bad idea to do that. So yeah, it's definitely a bit of a somber time in the NFL. And I know the Cowboys, with their bye week, they're gonna have time to process this and play that next game for him. But now,
play the rest of the season for him.
yeah, they'll play the rest of the season for him. You're right. But definitely that next game out, I'm really interested to see after the trade deadline, which also happened, to see how the Cowboys come out and all the rest of the teams. This week is our first look at that, and we did get a dose of that already with the Raiders and Broncos, and bit of a change of tone here, but this was a terrible game to watch. This was probably the worst game I've seen this year so far, maybe the past 2 or 3 years. The way Bo Nix and this offense looked was extremely disappointing to me. This 8-game winning streak that they have is kind of questionable to me. Being a Giants fan, like, I understand. You could look at me and say I'm salty, but you can't be coming away from that Giants game feeling like that was a quality win for them. It was a great comeback, but very questionable why they were in that position in the first place. You got this game. It's just questionable for me with the Broncos. I mean, they have that win against Philly, but other than that, the Cowboys win is kind of what it is right now. I'm not super impressed with the Broncos right now. Joey, did you have any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I think I want to believe in the Broncos, but I mean their defense is a legit top 5 unit. But when it comes to the offense, I think Bo Nix is very, very limited, especially throwing in the middle of the field. He gets carried, I think, by Sean Payton, and I just think that the offense is not good enough, and I don't think there's a way for them to get good enough. I think it's the quarterback. I don't think they have a real number one receiver. I mean, Troy Franklin's fine, but he's not a number two. I think there's a lot of problems with that offense. They do have a dominant O-line. They got a dominant run game. It's just the quarterback and receiving, like the receiving aspect of it all. I just don't know how they're going to get over their limitations, especially against good teams, because we haven't really seen them beat a good team. Did you look at their schedule?
Yeah, I mean, their best wins, I would say, are against the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Yeah,
And
it's fair.
that's
Eagles.
it's probably, you beat the Eagles. That is impressive. I think that's when they were at their best. I agree with you on Bo Nix to an extent, but I don't think Sean Payton goes without blame here. And, the play calls that they had were very conservative. Lots of screens and stuff on, like, third down situations where you could give Bo Nix an opportunity to throw it past the sticks and you don't let him do it. We don't really know if he can. So you could
That's been the
say
entire
Sean
season.
Payton knows. Yeah, you're right. It has been the entire season, and I think Sean Payton's he's got to give his quarterback a chance here. And then Sutton is solid. He could be considered a number one, but I agree. I think the wide receivers are at the very least young and not ready. So yeah, that game was pretty surprising. But let's move on to previewing and picking the games that are going to be happening for the rest of Week 10. And starting things off is going to be the Falcons at the Colts in Berlin. So it's going to be an overseas game, and you never really know what to expect with those. But for this game, the Falcons are going to be a little banged up on the offensive line. Storm Norton and Matthew Bergeron are both out. Chris Lindstrom is questionable. So far this season, teams have chose to run about 50% of the time versus this Falcons defense. The Colts are a well-balanced offense, as we've seen for almost all of this year, except for last week when they had a surprising loss to the Steelers. But the Colts should be able to lean on that running game with Jonathan Taylor. Teams run at the lowest percentage against the Colts defense at about 35%. That is probably because they spent so much time so far this season leading, so due to game script, but they allow a pretty low 4 yards per carry, which is around 10th lowest in the league. The Falcons typically also prefer to be a running offense with Bijan, but missing some of those offensive linemen and considering that this Colts defense is pretty good against the run, I wonder if they let Michael Penix sling it a little bit. But this just reads a pretty clear Colts win to me. They should be able to win in the trenches, but I don't know. It is an overseas game, and that game last week versus Steelers was eye-opening. But I am going to take the Colts. I'm going to change it to 27-20.
On the other side of that than you, I'm on the Falcons here.
Okay.
And a key reason why I like the Falcons is that something you didn't note is DeForest Buckner, star D tackle on the Colts, he's out. He's on IR. So he's not going to be playing. And I think the game script for this plays to the Falcons' favor because it could be a dominant run game just like the Colts. And I think we're going to see a classic Bijan game take over with Drake London. I don't know. I think there's a lot of pressure now on Daniel Jones. I think the pressure could get to him here with the Sauce Gardner trade, and I think that's just. I mean, overseas. The Falcons are one of those. Yeah, overseas, it's just not going to play in their favor. I think I like the Falcons for that reason. But I just, any given Sunday, that Falcons offense can kill you. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, Falcons have been a really hard team to read so far this season. It seems really dependent on, their game plan and what Penix is able to do about the pass rush when it comes after him. This Colts defense, they are missing DeForest Buckner. You are right about that. But I'm pretty sure their edge duo is healthy, and that should be, taken into account. You're versing a banged up offensive line, even though they are missing DeForest Buckner. So, yeah, they might not be able to expose it. I don't really see the Falcons dominating through at least the middle of the trenches. I don't know. I'm not saying I don't think it's possible. The Falcons could definitely be the type of team to make this kind of upset. I'm just not going to predict it. I kind of feel like the Colts should be getting back on track. They got a lot of this momentum after the trade deadline could go positively or negatively, kind of like, you insinuated, at least for Daniel Jones. I think the rest of the team might be able to, carry the load for him a little bit this week. But so you're picking Falcons over Colts. So you want to give a score prediction?
Give me Falcons 24-20.
24-20. Okay. So instead of scoring a touchdown for the Colts, they're going to score one less than what I have them, projected to do. All right, moving on to the next game. We got Saints at Panthers. Panthers are 5.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 39.5. Now, EPA-wise, I forgot to mention this for Falcons and Colts, but I'll just start by doing it here. The Saints are 29th in offensive EPA, and the Panthers are 24th. The Saints are 21st in defensive EPA, and the Panthers are 24th. So they're like the same sort of tier of team, but if they have the similar metrics in EPA, why are the Panthers 5-4 then? Well, the Bills game really skews it for the Panthers. They had Andy Dalton in there. And the Saints are still figuring things out with Tyler Shuck. They just moved off of Spencer Rattler, who was actually playing pretty solid for them. But I think the Panthers have played, a tougher schedule. And they've played much better recently. They're 5-1 in their last 6 games with Bryce Young. So, they had that rough start to the season. Bryce Young missed a game, and they played the Bills, and they got crushed. But other than that, this team has been winning and finishing games. So, to me, they should win by more than 5.5. But they still lack an explosive offense, this Panthers team. So I'm a little concerned about that spread. The Saints should come out fired up, but I'm going to take the Panthers 21-17. Joey, what do you think?
I think the Saints cover only because it's a divisional game, but the Panthers are going to win the game.
Yeah.
As you said, they don't have the explosiveness, but I think they figured out how to win with Bryce Young, and it's leaning on the run game to open up the pass game. He's like they compared him to Steph Curry. Remember?
Yeah.
Coming in. I think he's finally playing. He's finally with the right head coach. I think and the right offense.
Yeah.
He's got a number one. He's got a number one receiver now in Tet. So I kind of like where they're at, and I think they take care of business. But because it's a divisional game, I'm not going to sleep on the Saints. I think they're going to cover.
Yeah, and Dowdle's been amazing too. I mean, even if he doesn't play this week, then you got Chuba. So they're good at running back, and that's been huge.
Surprised he didn't trade one.
Yeah, me too. But I guess Trevor Etienne's your three, and Jonathan Brooks is the biggest question mark in the running back world right now. So
Chuba should be a Chief right now.
I agree. All right, moving on. We got Giants at Bears. So I'm gonna have strong feelings about this one.
I got you to start here.
What's
I got
that?
you to start. Caleb Williams and the Bears are going to drop 50 in MetLife against the sorry Giants.
Well,
that's what I got for you.
If you think so, what's your score prediction? 50 to what?
50-6.
50-6. All right, so you heard it here first. Take Bears minus 43.5. That's a joke. Campbell responds.
D1 versus D1 AA is what we're going to see.
The Bears are minus 4.5, so about a tenth of times 10 off. The over/under is 46.5. Don't hammer it. The Giants.
That's our lock of the week.
So EPA, the Bears are 7th in offense, which is really, really good actually. And then defensive, they're 19th, so a little less than average. The Giants 23rd in offensive EPA, which is probably the highest it's been in years. But defensively, they're 29th, which is kind of where it was last year with like the supposed talent and then the lack of actual production. It's going to be really windy this game in Chicago, so maybe think about that under 46.5. Really could throw off the passing game. And that Bears EPA metric to me is very matchup dependent. This offense has either looked really good or really bad all year. And you never really know which one you're going to get. But if I had to guess versus the Giants, allowing 5.5 yards per carry, that's the highest in the league. The pass defense is okay, but it's only because of the pass rush. The Bears' offensive game plan should be pretty simple. Run the rock, expose Darius Musaw as the linebacker, and our secondary in their poor coverage. And and we're also talking about Ben Johnson mentally versus Shane Bowen. So if I had to bet, I would say the Bears offense is going to look really good this week. If it doesn't, it's probably because of the wind. But conversely, the Bears allow the 4th highest yards per carry in the NFL, the 2nd most yards per completion in a passing game, which Jackson Dart has been doing this year, is having these explosive passes, extending the play, avoiding the rush. So it's not like the Bears defense has been very consistent week to week when it comes to that 19th overall ranking. So I do want to preface that I don't think there's a lot of certainty in the Bears, but I do feel pretty good about this happening as long as the wind isn't too bad. So Dart could have a day versus this defense, but I don't know, if it will match what the Bears are going to be able to do to the Giants defense. It's probably not going to make it any easier for the Giants either. So would be a very Bear thing for them to do to lose this game, but I'm going to take the Bears to win 26-20. So that has them covering the spread, and that's the under.
I got a question for you.
What's your question?
So we're about the halfway mark in the season, and you guys had a defensive end. You took 3rd overall. So far, through his rookie season, he has half a sack.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that? So I'm a little disappointed that he doesn't have more sacks. Of course, I'm going to say that. But in every other metric, I would say he's met expectations. And when you watch him in the game, the things that don't go on the stat sheets, like him just completely disrupting the play, flying around in the backfield, whether it's a run or a pass, I do feel like a lot of the times that he's the first guy into the backfield. And against the run, that was a big reason we beat the Eagles, was because of him and Kayvon and Burns setting the edge. And it really, if you're gonna like ask me like what was like disappointing to me this year, it's not Abdul Carter. Like I don't care that he only has a half a sack. Kayvon Thibodeau had a slow start to his career. Abdul's already clearly better than he was, and it's just gonna take some situations for him to get into. And keep in mind the Giants are a losing football team. We're not in as many clear pass rushing snaps where you can tee off as other guys who are on teams that are winning more often, right? Because you can sort of project that the other team is going to pass and kind of, bail on the run because you're going to be right more than often than not. But if you want to ask me what am I disappointed in, I don't know how this is possible, again, for this defense to rank 29th in defensive EPA. I mean, with all the talent that we added this offseason, you can't tell me that it wasn't on the table for this to at least be a top 10 defense. It sucks that we lost Micah McFadden, and Darius Musow has been a liability out there filling in for him. I mean, he's a 6th-round pick, and he's starting, and he was never drafted for that. So that's just one reason. But the secondary, playing the way it has, Adebo has been like, okay, and not, he's been hurt, and Holland like. I don't feel like he's been quite as advertised. Newbin has regressed in year 2. Banks, we know how bad he is. Flott is the only one who's actually, in the whole secondary, maybe the last guy I would have guessed, who's actually like sort of, done better this year. So I am just most disappointed in the defense out of anything. And I'm if anything, a little genuinely surprised with the offense, and I feel good about Dart. That's kind of how I feel halfway through the season.
I got 2 things for you. Mm-hmm. Number one, I want to talk about Abdul Carter a little bit more. He was compared to Micah Parsons, a better version of Micah coming out. Yeah. And I got to tell you, Micah Parsons didn't have half a sack at this point in his rookie year.
All right.
So the comparison was very off. He's not being as disruptive as he should be. Some people like J.J. Watt like to say that those pressure stats are fake because they're just made up kind of. They don't really count. He likes counting stats, and that's sacks. He's got half of them. So he's on pace for a 1 full sack this season. How about that? Pretty interesting when you think about it that way. But another thing with the Giants is the team building aspect of it all is really weird. Like you guys let good players walk, like Xavier McKinney to the Packers. You let him walk, and then you sign a safety in Javon Holland. Clearly not the same guy, not the same impact. You paid the Saints' number 2 corner. You didn't mention him as the only guy you trust. How's he doing this year?
He was their number 1.
How's he doing now for the Giants?
I mean, he's not been a liability, that's for sure. It's just he's a beatable guy. Like he's not like this I wouldn't even say like he's someone I would expect to make the Pro Bowl. He's someone I would just expect to stay on the roster and if anything maybe be a number 2 for a really elite guy.
Yeah, it's just not like the money you gave him though. He's not having that impact.
We didn't pay him like I don't feel like we paid him that much money.
You gave him $20 million a year, I thought.
We did, but I feel like that's not going to be like too bad,
it's a lot for a CB2 as
he was playing really well. He wasn't playing like a CB2. It's just been the injuries with him. But I want to respond to what you said about Abdul Carter because you're comparing him to Micah Parsons. Like him and Micah were in the same situation, their rookie year. I mean, and they're not, clearly. I mentioned it before. A competitive team is going to give a pass rusher more opportunities for sacks. It just is going to happen. The Giants have the 29th defense based on expected points added per play. So there are 3 teams in the NFL
so basically, what we're learning here
that will inevitably let up more points than the Giants.
What we're learning here is that he's not a game-changing player.
You're extracting from a team stat that it's all about Abdul Carter when it couldn't be any less about him. I want to say he had 5 hits in that Chargers game against Justin Herbert. They weren't sacks, and I'll address the what J.J. Watt thing said because I have feelings about that too, and then we got to move on. But he had an interception last week. Like I said, TFLs, getting into the backfield. And this is what I want to say about J.J. Watt and what he said. I hear a lot of people, John Gruden says stuff about this too, about how he doesn't care about pressures. He wants sacks. And I understand the premise of like, or tackles for loss, sacks or tackles for loss. I want one of those 2 things. Right. That is what you want the result of the play to be. But if it's not going to be that, it doesn't mean that the alternative is it's a 5-yard completion. You can also force an incompletion. You can also have a run game go for 0 yards. And that doesn't always just happen because some guy shedded a block and tackled him in the backfield, and that was just the end of the play. Sometimes it happens because someone breaks into the backfield, the running back has to change direction, and then he runs into somebody else. And for J.J. Watt and John Gruden, like, I understand, obviously, their football, experience is far greater than mine. But I'm willing to bet that there are people in the NFL circles who would agree with me that for anyone to sort of discredit, pressures and QB hits as not affecting the game, or even sort of the Chris Sims famous sort of, F the play up sort of play on defense where he's like, I got to give you credit for that. A guy like Aaron Donald, who would get double teamed every play, still rip through into the backfield. And J.J. Watt wants to tell me that I'm going to give him a 0 recorded stat if he does that the entire game. Come on now. Like, let's actually consider what is, why we're trying to call it a stat. Why are we calling it a pressure? Why are we calling it a QB hit? Because it affects
it's just his problem with it is that they're very inconsistent on how they reward these things. Because there's also like the D-line winning your one-on-one matchup, 2v2 matchup by beating a guy, but you never know what the play is. You never know if you guys are just letting it go through. That's another thing he was kind of hinting at with that stuff.
Yeah, with the Vager stuff, I would agree, and I would like them to be consistent and have like rules for how it's defined.
Yeah. But what you were describing was the Micah Parsons impact 100%. And that's why he got $47 million, because that's what he does. He's a disruptor with the pressures and the QB hits and all that. And some of that stuff you don't see on the field, but that's literally why he's the highest paid defensive player in the league. That's what he does. That's all I wanted to add.
Well, I've always had respect for Micah, but we know against the run, it's not quite the same. I'd give it to Myles Garrett, best defensive player in the league. I think it's time we move on. People have had enough of the Giants and, the discussion of Abdul Carter and, what is a pressure and all that stuff. Let's move on to the next game. Bills at Dolphins. This is a simple one. I mean, we know the Bills' second offensive EPA. The Dolphins are 25th, and then on defense, they're 30th. The Bills' defense is slightly vulnerable, 13th in defensive EPA. But, hey, I've seen this one before. It's in Miami. It's going to be 86 degrees and sunny. So if you want to believe that late in this game, the Dolphins can either win or sort of come back and cover because the Bills look gassed, I understand, kind of rolling with that narrative. We can't have the whole Miami can't play in the cold narrative without having they're good in the heat, right? Or good at home. So we have to give them some credit for that. They're 2-2 against the spread when they are home, this Dolphins team. They're 2-3 when they're away, so it's like, okay, it's not that different. But I would expect that to, that difference to increase over time as it gets colder and the season goes on. So it's just to point out how the Dolphins could perform better than last time. But like I said, we know how these games go. The Dolphins allow 5 yards per carry on the year. Bills have 4th highest yards per carry in the league. Big reason. Josh Allen, James Cook, the offensive line. They look great right now. Coming off the bye, they just beat the Chiefs. They blew out that Panthers team like they should. And I think they're going to win this game 31-20. So that's Bills minus 9.5. And that is over 50.5. Joey, what do you think about this game?
I think the Bills blow them out. They'll have that. I don't take Miami serious, so Bills kill them. Bills would kill them. It's just kind of the way it goes.
2 scores, 3 scores. What's the score prediction?
Give me Buffalo 38, Miami 17.
It's not even a bad take. I'm just more. I'm just playing closer to the odds, but I do sometimes like to just say the score predictions, which is what you get to do today. It's more fun like that sometimes. But anyway, that's enough for that game. Moving on to the next game, we got Ravens at Vikings. Going to be a very interesting one. Ravens are minus 4.5. The over/under is 48.5. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup. The EPA statistics to me for this don't matter nearly as much because these teams have gone through so much change since the start of the season. The Vikings with Carson Wentz getting in there, the injuries they've gone through and are now healthy. And then for the Ravens, obviously not having Lamar Jackson for a couple weeks there, really changing the offensive EPA. But I will say their defensive EPA is 25th. And now their defense is going to be a little affected by Lamar not being in there, but it shouldn't be, too much. So the Ravens defense is definitely, it could be the weakest unit in this game. It's both these teams are fully healthy for what seems like the first time this year. I mean, I know they got some injuries, but mostly guys who are not coming back. The Vikings pulled off a really impressive win last week versus the Lions, and they were pressuring Jared Goff like crazy. They blitzed him 44% of the time. I think Lamar can handle the pressure much better if they use the same game plan. But who says they're going to use the same game plan? We know Lamar is great at exploiting the blitz on scrambles and play action, and in their past matchups, Flores has had some success versus them. Who knows if he shows them the same thing or something different. But the Vikings are better at stopping the pass. So I don't know if they're going to be ready for Lamar and Henry regardless. And I would trust Todd Monken to scheme up a nice run game against them. And McCarthy last week, he did get a nice impressive win, but he hasn't played against a defensive scheme like this before with Zach Orr so far. Well, it's not a great defense, but the scheme itself, that Mike McDonald scheme that Zach Orr is now running should be something new for him. And Kevin O'Connell should be able to help him out with that. But it's not like they won last week purely because of J.J. McCarthy. I wouldn't say he was that phenomenal. So, and don't forget the Lions theory. The week after you play the Lions, you're all beat up and more likely to lose the following week. So I'm going to take the Ravens 28-20, breaking through that Vikings defense. Ravens minus 4.5 and under 48.5. Joey, who do you think is going to win this game?
I think you take the Vikings plus 4.5 and you pair that with the Falcons spread, and then you bet that because I think the Vikings are going to win. I think they have a better overall team. Like you said, they're both fully healthy, but I think the Vikings are picking up some momentum here because they have a lot to play for. I think I think we're going to see all four NFC North teams in the playoffs. But I want to say the Vikings will win this game 31-28 by a field goal.
Okay. I think the Ravens have a lot to play for right now.
They do, but I kind of like the Vikings more than I do the Ravens. I like their defense better than the Ravens.
I do think the Vikings defense could be a surprise in this game. If they could really contain Lamar, I would be extremely impressed and kind of consider putting them near the top 10 once again. But your score prediction was what again?
Give me the Vikings 31, the Ravens 28.
Okay, if the Vikings win, that's probably how it's going to go down. All right, moving on to the next game. We got Browns at Jets. Jets minus 1.5, over under 37.5. Is this going to be the game of the year, Joey? No.
Here's my game score, though. I got the Browns 10, Jets 6.
That's a great take because in this game, they both have offenses in the bottom 27 of EPA. The Browns with 31st in EPA for offense. But on defense, the Browns have the 6th best defense in terms of EPA. And the Jets are 27.
Perfect timing time?
Huh?
Is it time that we see Shedeur Sanders? I mean, I don't know why we're waiting to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think they should give him a shot. I really do. I know there's drama there, constantly, but if they actually have this type of defense, they should try to see if they should win, if they can win some games with him. Do they even want him on the team? Like really?
Like they would sell out stadiums probably if they started him. Like I feel like they're missing out on money here by not playing him.
Yeah, and it's just weird. It's like if you didn't want him, you should have never taken him, and he would have went undrafted.
I feel like they don't want him at all. I don't know why he's on the team.
Why they selected him, I'm pretty sure it was the owner. But anyway.
He should be on the Eagles or Ravens right now as the QB2.
So you predicted Browns, and your guess is as good as mine. But my gut says that the Browns defense should force enough turnovers or hold the Jets offense enough for the win. But who knows? Maybe the Jets players will be fired up after two of their best teammates got traded away last week. That could have a positive or negative effect. But
Quincy Williams for some reason. Why didn't they trade him? He's a free agent.
Yeah,
another missed opportunity.
Yeah, they're not starting him. And I think with a healthy Judkins, no Quinnen Williams on this Jets defense, the Browns should have the edge. So I'm going to take them.
You got Mozzie Smith, though.
20-17. I don't want to hear it about Mozzie Smith. He just got there. He couldn't figure out Dallas's operation.
Worst D tackle in football. He was 119 out of 119.
All right, so we're both taking the Browns in that game, and we're gonna move on to a very important game that I'm very excited to talk to you, Joey, about, because I know how strongly you feel about at least one of these teams. I know you feel pretty good about two of them, but we got the Patriots at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 48.5. The Patriots, 8th in offensive EPA this year and 10th in defensive EPA. Well balanced. The Buccaneers, 17th in offensive EPA. I did not expect that. And they're 5th in defensive EPA. So
They fell off with the injuries.
Yeah. You're talking about the Bucs offense?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely did. But this is an awesome matchup. The Patriots are a hot 7-2. I and many others have waited to further credit their success. By far, this is going to be the best defense they've played, and the second best team. So far this season, this is who they've played and beaten. The Raiders, they lost. They lost to that Raiders team. The Dolphins, they beat. The Steelers, they also lost to. But then they go on their winning streak. The Panthers, they beat them in a blowout, so that's a solid win. The Bills was their most impressive win, but then after that, Saints, Titans, Browns, and Falcons. These past 4 weeks, I feel like, that's kind of lulling you to sleep. You're really not playing like a team like the Bills, and that Bills team was kind of off. There's something off about them in that part of the season. I'm just not that impressed by the schedule so far. I think May is great, but the team still has a lot to prove. They lost Kayshon Boutte. They're without Ramondre Stevenson. The Bucs should be fresh off a bye, and whoever's playing is the healthiest they've been. I like their chances. It should be a close game, but I have more faith in the Buccaneers sort of foundation of their team, especially that defense and Todd Bowles. So I'm going to pick the Bucs to win 24-23. That is New England plus 2.5, but I am taking the Buccaneers to win. Joey, who do you think is going to win this game, and why do you think?
I think the Patriots smack them up. They are the more balanced team, and Drake May is the best quarterback in this matchup, obviously.
Wow.
Yeah, I just kind of think it's a big Demario Douglas game for the Patriots. They're going to spam him in the slot. They don't have Boutte. He's out for this game, hamstring injury. So I just like the Patriots. I just like where they're at, and this is a big game for them to get these doubters like you off their back, and I think they're going to take care of business.
Well, I certainly don't think it's impossible. I am taking their spread. So far off this EPA chart, it looks to me like the Patriots defense is a little worse against the pass, and they're a lot better against the run. The Buccaneers are the same. They're the same defensive stat minus 0.1 against the run that the Patriots are. So they have equal run defenses, essentially, but they're better against the pass than the Patriots are. So that's sort of the defensive advantage when it comes to the quarterbacks. Offensively, to me,
Drake May is him. That's all I gotta say.
He is him, but it's a team sport, and he needs more than himself to win this game. But we'll just have to sit and find out. This is not the first one we've disagreed about, and it probably won't be the last. So let's move on to the next one. Cardinals at Seahawks. Seahawks are minus 6.5-point favorites, a little low. The over-under is 45.5. We know Kyler is on the injured reserve.
The Cardinals are minus 6.5 favorites.
The Seahawks are. I don't know if I said Cardinals, but it's the Seahawks. The Cardinals are 19th in offensive EPA and 18th in defensive. The Seahawks.
If you can edit that to just Jacoby Brissett, I want to know what that is.
I don't know if I can do that. I'll try while you're talking, but I don't think I can. What is
their
it?
offense has been completely. How many games has he
played, Jacoby Brissett? What was his first game starting?
I want to say he's played the last 3 games at least, but let me look.
Because I think, why don't you look for me, and I'll finish what I had to say. The Seahawks are 11th in offensive EPA and 8th in defensive EPA. It's supposed to rain in this game. So looking at the those two stats, the Cardinals are like an average team across the board, and the Seahawks are above average on both sides. It's pretty cut and dry. Arizona hasn't been bad with Jacoby Brissett, but Seattle is just on another level right now. The spread makes sense to me. I think adding Rashid Shaheed, who's familiar with Clint Kubiak from last year, that's a huge W for the Seahawks team. I just don't see a path to success for this Cardinals team. I think the Seahawks keep rolling, and I take them in this game 27-20. Did you find out which week?
Kyler's been out since week 6. He hasn't played. He missed the Colts, Packers, Dallas game. The last 3 weeks that they had. Really, it's been the last month because they had a bye week in between that.
Yeah, I don't know if I can isolate it by week.
I don't know. I just know we've seen Marvin Harris. Marvin Harrison's been unlocked with Jacoby Brissett, and it just shows you what an average quarterback can do with a talent like him, which is what Kyler's not because he can't see the O line
You're
over the O
acting
line.
like Marv didn't drop like 4 touchdowns this year when he was
I
playing
think
with
Kyler
Kyler.
should seriously consider playing for the Las Vegas A's and switch to baseball because I think that's kind of where we're at with him. I don't think another team's going to want to take him on as a starting quarterback. I think his time in Arizona's done. So I don't really know where he goes from here unless he switches to baseball. He's only 28, so he can have a long baseball career. He's a better athlete, so why not try it? That's what I want to say. He should probably have played baseball.
I'm just saying the discussion before he was hurt was not that he was letting Marv down. The discussion was that Marv was letting him down.
Everybody can tell that he's been letting Marv down.
That's just a lie. That's just not true. I
Oh,
mean, you watched the last 3 games he played.
I just
Marv
look
dropped
over
a
Scott's left
50-yard
shoulder.
pass where he was wide open.
Look over Scott's shoulder. He's an
Probably would have
apologist.
scored. He had that dropped touchdown in the end zone in that Seahawks game with Kyler. He was not good until he caught that touchdown, which
Who's the
was
jersey next to Kyler Murray?
that's Malik.
I thought that said Banks. I was like, what the hell?
No, you better believe he's not on there. So
But guys, think about this.
I
This guy
have-
has a Josh Allen jersey and then a Kyler Murray jersey. How disgusting is that duo?
I have other
pretty cool.
jerseys. All right. I
Take the
forget-
Kyler one down. Put someone else up there. That guy's a
I'll-
bum.
I'll think about it. I want to see what happens here. He is on the IR, so but that's kind of like the rest. This is kind of like the rest in peace show up there. But
Why is Josh
I'll ask-
Allen?
Well, he shouldn't be. You're right. If that's the case, it should be like Keenan Allen or
Rest- the
something
rest in
because he's due. But Seahawks 27-20 is my prediction. What's your prediction?
I got give me 28-17 Seattle.
Okay, I think that's a good take. All right, yeah, it doesn't seem like we disagree too much. I picked the over just because of Rashid Shaheed. I think he's likely to catch a touchdown in this game. I think they want to surprise this Cardinals team with him, and because he should know a lot of what this offense is already, and he should be ready to go run some post routes. And the other, he's a good route runner, so give him some respect for that stuff. But yeah, he's going to catch a deep touchdown, I think, this week. Rams 49ers is our next game. Rams are -4.5 favorites. The over-under is 19.5. The Rams, phenomenal EPA stats, 9th in offense, 3rd in defense. Wow, imagine that. Their defense is the one leading the way. 49ers are 13th in offense and 22nd in defense. So it's like, let's try this again. You guys faced off last Thursday night, and the 49ers had this upset win. Just Kyle Shanahan showing why he's such an elite head coach on that short week with all the injuries this Niners team has been able to sort of weather and then beat a team like this Rams team is extremely impressive. The Rams should be better prepared this time around. Puka should be playing. I know San Francisco won last week, but they played the Giants. And other than that, I feel like they've sort of been crumbling. Like, any success they've had after the injuries, it's just like, you survived the next week and the next week, and then it just kind of fell apart before that Giants game. So, we'll see what happens. Maybe they can bounce back and have another good week. I'm going to take the Rams to win 28-21. So the Rams cover, and that's the under. Joey, what do you think is going to happen in this game?
Give me the Rams blowing them out 28-10. I like Mac Jones. I like the Niners, but I think that they've had a lot of flaws covered up. They aren't running a smooth offense. I guess really CMC I'm kind of not giving credit to because he's been more of a number one receiver this year than running back. His longest rush this year is like 17 yards.
That's so crazy.
He's really hit a wall in the running game. I don't know if it's part of his age or, he has the Achilles thing, whatever that is, but it hasn't looked the same. Overall, they've regressed a lot. But they've kind of like gotten away with these games so far, but I think they get exposed against the Rams. I think it's just one of those games.
Yeah, I was so shocked when it happened the first time and the Rams lost. I just can't see it happening again. Not much else to say. You said 28-10?
Yep.
All right. 28-10. I have 28-21, so I'm giving them a little bit more credit, but covering nonetheless. All right, moving on to our next game. We got the Jaguars at the Texans. Jags are 1.5 point favorites. Over-under is 37.5, and I think that hit last time. Jags 18th in offensive EPA, 15th in defensive EPA. I would have expected that to be higher. Texans are 21st in offensive EPA and first in defensive EPA. That's right. The Texans have the best defense in the NFL by EPA. This is a pretty wild matchup. Both teams have a ton of injuries. BTJ is out. Stroud going to be out in this one. Last time it was a defensive turnover fest. I think it goes pretty similar in this one. I felt like Houston was trending upward before that CJ Stroud injury, and Jacksonville was kind of trending down. So I thought if CJ Stroud played, they were going to win this game. He's not playing, so is Davis Mills going to be able to play a clean game against this Jags team? I'm definitely not going to say it's impossible. That I am in no way gonna suggest that. In fact, I actually think this Texans defense is going to really clamp this Jaguars offense, and I think there is a chance they could win this game even with Davis Mills. They just have to block it up front and be able to run the ball. That's literally it, and they can play it safe and play close. I'm still going to take the Jags, but I'm only going to take them by 1 point. 18-17 Jaguars for me. Joey, what do you think is going to happen?
I think this is going to be one of the worst games of the slate here.
Yeah.
It's just kind of scheming up to be that way. There's no, like as you said, no BTJ, no Travis Hunter. So it's going to be like 18, like you said, 18-17. Let's just go with like 20-17 Jags. They still win. I don't believe in Houston has a really good defense, but the offense, man.
They've been a lot better recently, but I know their offense has been a big problem. All right. Moving on to our next game. This might be our shortest discussion this week. I anticipate it will be. Lions at Commanders. Lions are 7.5-point favorites. The over-under is 49.5. Detroit is 6th in offensive EPA and 4th in defensive EPA. That might be the best combination so far. Washington, 20th in offensive and 28th in defensive. And honestly, those don't even matter because some of those games were with Jaden Daniels. The ones without them, they've gotten blown out in pretty much all of them. And he's not playing. So how is the spread only 7.5? To me, it should be huge. It should be like
I'm looking at 8.5 right now.
Yeah, maybe it's moved, but dude, this spread should be like 13.5 to me. I mean, this just seems like this is a game where this Lions team is gonna come out so furious because of last year in the playoffs. Having the 1 seed and losing like that, and then them losing last week to JJ McCarthy. This Lions team I think is going to be more fired up than we've seen them all year. And to me, if that's the case against a Commanders team without Jaden Daniels, is there anything else to say? I think the Lions are going to win 34-13.
Give me the Lions 49-10.
Yeah, same idea, right?
Turn it off at halftime. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Not going to be a great game. But this should actually be a good game in my opinion. We got Steelers at Chargers on Sunday Night Football. This is going to be an awesome game. Chargers -3, over under 44.5. Offensive EPA for the Steelers is 14th and they're 23rd on defense. The Chargers are 12th on offense and 11th in defensive. Now, for those Chargers stats, important to mention, they had not had Rashawn Slater this whole year, but they had Joe Alt for part of the beginning of the season. He had a high ankle sprain. He came back. Now he needed surgery, so he's going to be out. So you gotta kind of take those with a grain of salt because in the games they didn't have either of those guys. It was a huge problem. They can't run the ball. They can't pass protect. Justin Herbert gets destroyed. They did trade for Trevor Penning from the Saints, but he's kind of like
former first-round bust.
Yeah, it's like he's maybe he could do something. Maybe he could play guard even. But it's not looking good for them. The Steelers defense.
Did he start for the Saints?
I thought he did. Thought he was a starter. I think it was Kelvin Banks was fighting for that.
Replacement.
Yeah, but the Steelers really elevated last week defensively. Against a Colts team that was having a record-setting pace of offensive efficiency, and even on the EPA chart, they're still number one by a they're ahead of the Bills, they're ahead of the Packers and Chiefs and Cowboys by, especially the Cowboys by a significant margin. And we think of their offense is amazing. So just think about how good this Colts offense has been, and it got shut down last week by the Steelers defense. So if they were pretty much fully healthy, that Colts team, what is this Chargers team going to do against this Steelers defense? I mean, it is Sunday Night Football. I think they're going to show up ready to play. But, man, having to just think about, okay, Justin Herbert's got an injured offensive line. He's versing the Steelers on prime time. The Steelers looked really good last week. They looked like they clicked on defense. Yeah, it should be a close game, but I don't know why the Chargers are favored. Give me the Steelers in this one, 24-20. I I'm not saying there's no chance the Chargers win. Justin Herbert could always piece up this kind of sorry secondary for the Steelers, but if this Chargers team can't win in the trenches, I don't think they have a great shot. So give me the Steelers 24-20. Joey, what do you think is going to happen here?
Got the Steelers 24-16.
24-16. So even less faith in Justin Herbert's offense without his favorite offensive lineman. All right.
Yes.
Really excited to watch this game.
I think it's a big game for the Steelers to just keep momentum going with where they are, and they need to stay ahead of Baltimore. So I think they gotta take care of business.
And this reminds me of Michael Vick filling in for the Steelers years and years and years ago against the Chargers. I think it was a Monday night game. I don't think it was a Thursday night game, but him filling in and then Le'Veon Bell taking that Wildcat touchdown in from the 1 yard line as time expired. Pretty awesome game. So kind of hoping for some similar primetime magic between these two teams, which I hope it's exciting. And then moving on to our last game, the Monday Night Football game and the game of the week, the game on the thumbnail. We got Eagles at Packers. So the Packers are home and they're 2.5
Let me stop you there. Not much to talk about here. Packers are going to put BTA. That's all I got.
What's your BTA score prediction?
Give me the Packers 35, the Beagles 16. Actually, give me the Beagles 13.
The crazy
35-13.
It's not even impossible, and I'm gonna get into it when I give you my explanation. But I put some real thought into this. But let's go over EPA real quick. Eagles offense is 10th and defense is 16th. Pretty well balanced, recovering the past couple weeks. They've had some injuries, but it looks like they're fully healthy after the bye. Packers are 3rd in offensive EPA, but 17th in defensive EPA. Very surprising. But we get a Monday Night Football rematch between the 2024 NFC Wild Card and between the defending Super Bowl champs and my preseason Super Bowl pick. This is a huge game. Probably the biggest game that's happened since, I would say, Packers-Lions week 1. You had Eagles-Chiefs was a big one too. Chiefs-Bills just last week. This is the next big one to me because I think this is where there's a lot of uncertainty right now. The Packers are... What's up?
I wouldn't mind the Eagles blowing the Packers out because I forgot Dallas has their first-round pick. So I'm all about the Packers losing. I forgot.
Yeah, you should be. and after, the playoff beef and all that kind of stuff. But anyway... We don't have to talk about that. Let's talk about how the Packers are going to be without Tucker Kraft for the first time this season because he tore his ACL last week, which certainly, it shook up their game plan. Probably contributed to their loss to that Panthers team. He was working pretty well before he got hurt, and now they have to play an Eagles team who's coming off bye. And for this week, I actually had the Eagles above Green Bay in my top 10 list, but I have little faith that is going to sustain itself. That ranking is attached to the bye that they're coming off of, the additions they made by the trade deadline, and kind of projecting, their Super Bowl odds. I'd give it better to them at the moment. But for this Packers team, it was also like, they had just lost to that Panthers team, and, it really settling in that Tucker Kraft tore his ACL in that game. I'm not saying it totally changes the way I view it, but I was already explaining how that Panthers team isn't even a bad team. We talked about it earlier. And I just feel like the way that the Packers have been disappointing and the way that the Eagles have been disappointing this year is not the same. Whenever I see, compared to a consistent, close loss team like the Packers, who have lost a very fluke game to the Browns, pretty fluky game to this Panthers team. They tied the Cowboys and looked really good, at least on offense in that game. Their special teams is terrible, but they lose close. This Eagles team, when they've lost... The Broncos game was close. It was. But, the Giants genuinely blew them out. That has not happened yet to the Packers. And for a talent-deficient team like the Giants that's coached by a staff that we're coached by, when you think about them losing to that Giants team, compare that to the Browns. At least they got Kevin Stefanski in that defense for the Panthers, Dave Canales, that defense was solid in that game, that run game. Dave Canales and Bryce Young, they've got something holding it together. The Giants are really just a question mark every week. To lose to them, with a pretty much fully healthy roster, really spoke to me, and I'm gonna stick to my guns on this one with my preseason take and all my takes throughout this season about the Packers. I think this Eagles team is borderline better on paper right now. I'm just kind of betting on the Packers being more well run, locking in after they lost one of their best guys last week. Give me them to win 23-21. So that is the Eagles to cover.
I would bet Michael Parsons to get a sack this game. Have him go off. This would be the Michael Parsons game, I feel like, because he hates Philadelphia, so I wouldn't put it against him. I wouldn't bet against him here.
Yeah.
I think he could put the Packers defense on his back this week if it really came down to it, which they're going to need if they struggle on offense without Tucker Kraft. This is a big game, too, I feel like, for their first-round pick.
Matthew Golden.
Yeah, they got to use Matthew Golden now. Like, if you got to spread the rock more, you don't have Tucker Kraft to feed the ball to. You got to use all your receivers here. So I want to see what that looks like. I just want to see also what Musgrave looks like, too, stepping into that tight end one role.
Yeah,
because he has more talent than Tucker Kraft he just hasn't reached it yet.
Yeah, it's not an insurmountable loss because they do have Luke Musgrave, and he's more of the receiving type to my understanding. Maybe because he doesn't block as well, they preferred Tucker Kraft, but now you don't have him, and Luke Musgrave is gonna have to get his hand in the dirt and be physical to be useful for this team in the playoffs. But as for now, just being the tight end and being out there. Other teams might be doubting him a little bit because he is a backup. So keep an eye out for Luke Musgrave. Keep an eye out for Matthew Golden. Keep an eye out for Micah Parsons on the Eagles side. I'm curious to see, of all the new additions, are any of them going to play? I know they have Nolan Smith back. Huh?
I want to see Jair Alexander versus the Packers, what he looks like.
Right. I would think he would do his best to try to be available for this game. And then with Jalen Phillips, it looks like he's been practicing. I'm sure he'll get some snaps out there. And the Packers, as much as they've struggled to run the ball this year, their pass protection is pretty good. So I think if they can block it up versus this Eagles team, it's going to be all it takes for it to look like week 1 of last year, where to me, that game could have gone either way and Jordan Love got injured. So, as long as he stays healthy, I think they should win this game. So I would highlight, this week as the biggest games, the closest ones at least: Eagles, Packers, Steelers, Chargers, Patriots, Buccaneers, Ravens, Vikings. And then for me personally, Giants, Bears. I think it's just going to be a who knows what's going to happen game. I know you think the Bears are going to score 50 points. We'll see about that. I don't know about that one, but I'm not confident enough to say it won't happen, I guess.
Yeah.
But if they do, it's probably because they'll run the ball and they won't have enough time to score 50. But that's all the games this week.
I think they figured out how to use Loveland. I think they finally figured out how to use him, and he's going to change the offense even more and make him better.
Yeah, well, Ben Johnson, people were beginning to question him a few weeks into the season, and you got to be patient with these coaches. These coaches are really smart. They're working with many, many different people, and
I'd agree.
In order for them to kind of sift through, especially in their first head coaching gig, it's gonna take a little bit of time. Some guys will do it right away, but for some others, it's going to take a little bit of time. But once you see what it is, you see what it is. So,
and to that point, I think we need to see another 3 to 5 years of Daboll with the Giants.
I'm
Shane
getting less and less confident with that every single day. All right, because it's at the point where it's we don't want to ruin Dart's development. I don't think it would ruin his development if we got rid of Brian Daboll and Joe Shane. But what I will say, my big thing there is, if we're going to get rid of Brian Daboll, what's the idea of keeping Joe Shane too? Why would we not clean the entire house?
He picked Jackson Dart. He gave you Abdul.
It was a good pick.
The end.
He honestly didn't really have another choice but to do that. So I think a lot of dudes would have taken Carter. I think most guys would have traded up for Jackson Dart. We were just the ones who actually did it. We were very desperate, and it actually benefited us. But I'm going to check the chat to see if there's any questions. Sorry, guys, if I didn't see any of them. But, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Joey, do you have any closing thoughts, anything you want to keep an eye on or give a little extra mention to?
I want you guys to watch the Vikings and how they beat the Ravens. That's my game of the week. I want to see how McCarthy looks after a good game against Detroit. As you said, the Detroit factor of losing that next game, I want to see if that applies here. That's overall the most up in the air game I feel like we got. I think it's going to be a highly entertaining game and to watch that one.
Yeah, I think it should be a good game to watch. And I'm not
Lamar's first game back, right?
Lamar.
Did he play last week?
Yeah, he played last week.
All right, you get the idea.
Yeah, they're still hot and ready, I guess. Okay, that should conclude it for today's live stream, the 12th episode of the NFC East podcast. If you guys did enjoy, and if you're watching this far, first of all, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, and why don't you drop a like if you did, and you can subscribe down below. You see the pocket, hit that little bell, get your notifications so you know when we are live. Upset we didn't get Danny today. He was good for the show last week. Hopefully we can get all three of us on. But that's the typical plan. You guys will see the three of us talking Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders. Just this week, we got bye weeks and stuff going on. And so we didn't really lead off with that. But I hope you all enjoyed the preview of Week 10. And other than that, let's get ready to watch some football. Joey, got anything for the audience?
I'll see you guys Sunday night.
All right, see you guys Sunday night. Have a good Friday.